I'd like to thank the European Parliament, also on behalf of High Representative Borrell, for convening this session. Lebanon is a fragile country, gravely weakened by multiple crises and at the risk of being further destabilized by Israeli operations, which would also have wider repercussions on the region and beyond. The civilian population of Lebanon is paying the highest price. The country is facing the most devastating conflict in a generation, with almost 2,500 people dead, 1 in 5 Lebanese displaced, and with 43% of the displaced being children. The lack of space in shelters, disrupted education, numerous attacks on healthcare facilities, increasing number of deaths among health and other relief workers, and a high risk of disease outbreak are only some of the elements underlying the need for an immediate de-escalation of this conflict and the ceasefire. UNIFIL's stabilization role is essential for Lebanon and for Israel, and this role will become even more critical in the perspective of a ceasefire. It is the responsibility of the UN Security Council to define the mandate of UNIFIL. And according to UN Security Council Resolution 1701, UNIFIL is supposed to be the only armed force, together with the Lebanese armed forces, to be deployed in the south of Lebanon. The cooperation between UNIFIL and the Lebanese armed forces has been remarkable so far. The EU is committed to further empowering the Lebanese armed forces and to facilitating their cooperation with UNIFIL. To this aim, the Council of the EU has recently approved a new assistance measure for the Lebanese armed forces worth 15 million euros under the European Peace Facility. The Lebanese armed forces play a key role in guaranteeing Lebanon's national security, stability and sovereignty, and this is also in the interest of Israel's security. The EU is equally committed to scaling up our humanitarian engagement in Lebanon. Humanitarian needs in Lebanon are huge and increasing by day. There is an imminent need for more humanitarian funding. For this reason, the EU allocated an extra 10 million euros to Lebanon to address the most pressing needs of the conflict-affected populations, both injured and displaced. This includes the provision of health and shelter services. Additional 13 million euros for Lebanon are in the pipeline. This comes on top of the 64 million euros already allocated earlier this year. We have also activated the EU Civil Protection Mechanism to support the Lebanese health sector. A number of member states have already offered medicine and medical equipment. In addition, to support the most vulnerable and displaced population in Lebanon, the Commission has launched the European Humanitarian Air Bridge. So far, 3 flights delivered a total of 105 tons of the EU humanitarian stocks. More flights with life-saving assistance are being scheduled. Mobilization of the humanitarian aid and support to the Lebanese armed forces and UNIFIL will be among the key objectives of the International Conference on Lebanon that will be held in Paris this Thursday. The EU welcomes this conference, where both High Representative Borrell and I will actively participate. The EU and its member states have always supported UNIFIL and will continue to do so. The fact that 16 EU member states contribute troops to UNIFIL speaks for itself. High Representative Borrell visited the UNIFIL headquarters next to the southern border during his last visit to Lebanon to emphasize this EU support. UNIFIL's brave decision to remain in the field in the face of threats against it deserves our political support, recognition and respect from all of us. This is crucial for the credibility and the security of multilateral peacekeeping operations, but also for the morale of our troops in the field, so that they know that they have our full backing. This point was made very strongly during the European Council last week, and it is clearly reflected in its conclusions. The European Council condemned the attacks by the Israeli Defense Forces against UNIFIL, which constitute a grave violation of international law and must stop immediately. The European Council also recalled that all actors have an obligation to take necessary measures to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel and property, and to respect the inviolability of UN premises at all times. The European Council also recalled the need to ensure that civilians are protected at all times, that civilian infrastructure is not targeted, and that international law is respected. The recent incidents affecting the civilian population and UNIFIL only make ceasefire even more urgent. We hear the many voices and declarations within Lebanon now calling for an immediate ceasefire and the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces along the blue line. The European Union supports these voices and is ready to continue playing its part. To ensure that ceasefire is credible and efficient, a strong implementing and monitoring mechanism will be needed. As EU, we are confident that UNIFIL can play this important role. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And we start with the first round of speakers on behalf of the groups.